Have you ever wanted to play a game where a bunch of ninjas and dinosaurs team up so that they can take down the nefarious group of wizard pirates terrorizing the seven seas plus Hogwarts? Smash Up lets you do just that, taking a wide variety of different peoples, monsters, and myths to do epic combat wherever the hell they feel like fighting. Oh, roll the intro.
Mouse, I have a cancer. Hello? Hey, Mouse?
Smash Up is a card game for 2 to 4 players that takes about 45 minutes. The goal of the game is to use a deck comprised of 2 different factions to destroy bases in order to secure world domination, otherwise known as getting victory points. You need to reach 15 victory points to be exact in order to win the game. Gameplay is going to primarily be playing minions to bases and backing up those minions with utility cards, and then drawing more cards again to repeat the cycle. The theme here is very goofy, if it wasn't obvious enough already. You're probably going to get a kick out of the ways these different factions are represented in their cards. And you'll also probably love how certain tropes are represented here. Furthermore, it's hilarious imagining 2 completely different factions like leprechauns and zombies teaming up. And just as fun, the theory craft different combos and how they actually play out. Lastly, I want to point out that I do own 2 more expansions, namely the awesome level 9000 and pretty Smash Up ones. But we're going to be focusing primarily on the base game, and we'll only sparsely mention the expansions if relevant. So let's take a look at what you get in the base game of Smash Up. It's pretty loud. Okay, so for starters, you got your rule book. You know, it's a rule book. You just read stuff, tells you how to play the game. And then you're gonna have these 8 piles of faction cards and 1 pile of base cards. Base cards have a blue back. You get 16 of these. All factions are gonna have 20 cards and they're all yellow backed. So you got your robot faction. You got your ninja faction. You got your zombie faction. Your leprechaun faction. Who the hell came up with this, but I'm glad it's in the game. You got aliens. Wizards. You're a wizard, Harry. Pirates. Yarr. And last but certainly not least, the mecha dinosaurs. They could have just made these normal dinosaurs. Nah, they're mecha dinosaurs. Very minimalistic, simple game. So let's get into how we're going to play Smash Up. This game is pretty easy to grasp the basics of, but not so much the nuances of. To set up, everyone picks 2 different...
That's dated.
Wow, these cards are very slippery.
It's the beauty of Shelfside, you know.
That is. Is that all 20 of them? 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, cool. So to set up, everyone picks 2 different factions, each comprised of 20 cards, and you're gonna shuffle them together to form a 40 card deck. You're then going to shuffle the, where did I put it? The blue backed base deck and draw from it your number of players plus 1. So if you got 3 people, you draw 4 from it. You're gonna put them in the middle with plenty of space around them so that players can play cards next to them. After deciding who goes first, everyone is going to draw 5 cards from their deck. If your hand has no minions in it, you can actually discard it and draw 5 new cards. I didn't even know this was a rule until I reread the rules when writing this review. Remember that the goal of the game is to reach 15 points, which is done by blowing up these bases in the middle, which are worth victory points based on the 3 big numbers in the middle of the card. The small number on the top of it is the one that takes into account the total power of everyone's stuff there, regardless of who they belong to. So we got like one guy with 6 power, one guy with 5 power, one guy with 7 power. You add it all together and you consider that value in accordance to that base's number on top. When that value is met, you give points to the top 3 players with stuff there. The one with the most power at that base gets the leftmost number, typically the biggest. second place gets the middle, third place gets the last. Now it might seem like it's obvious to want to be the guy on top and snag the first place bonus every time, but you could also divide and conquer by trying to get third place in a bunch of different bases. On a turn of Smash Up, players can play one minion and one action. Playing cards is simple. They just have effects they do when you play them. So you play this minion, play it there, does a thing. The only exceptions being the one that said you do something weird. When you play a minion, you have to play it onto a base of your choice. Playing actions just does whatever the action says before you send it to the discard pile, unless it says otherwise. Once you are done playing cards, check to see if any bases are ready to score. You do this by adding up the total power of everyone's stuff on the base and see if it's met or exceeded the base's breaking point value on the top of the card. If a base scores, do the process I described earlier about seeing who has the most power there and award your points accordingly. At this point, you also check to see if anyone has reached 15 points, and if so, the game ends and the winner goes to whoever had the most points. It's entirely possible that when a base blows, one player ends up with 15 and another with 16, so then the latter player would win. But if the game didn't end, everyone sends all of their cards at that base to the discard piles that they own, and then you discard the base, drawing a new one from the base deck. Oh yeah, and also at the end of the turn, you draw 2 cards from your deck. Bada bing, bada boom. Players repeat this gameplay loop of playing minions, actions, and scoring bases until someone hits 15 points. So that's all the info about Smash Up. Let's get into what we think are the pros and the cons. Starting off with the pros. Firstly, the theme of Smash Up is done incredibly well. All of the cards have great art with just as great borders to really help sell the different aesthetic of each faction. Here's some examples there, boom. Pirates got ropes around them, they got wood, they got boats. You can pick up any card and you can immediately tell what faction it's supposed to be. Like, look at that. This is literally a ninja throwing stars. Everyone knows ninjas throw throwing stars, duh. And on top of that, every faction has their own different strategies to execute during gameplay, which overall really helps to sell you on the uniqueness of them all. Dinosaurs, they're big. Ninjas, they kill stuff. Wizards go around comboing spells really hard. You get the gist. Their gameplay feels like it fits their theme incredibly well, tying this whole thematic package together wonderfully. Speaking of combos, there is absolutely insane balls to the walls combo potential here as well. Many of the factions are super fun to theory craft with other factions. There's 28 different possible combinations in the base game with just 8 factions, though admittedly some combos are going to be noticeably more successful than others. But there's also huge combo potential in the gameplay and not just from deck smash-ups, as there are many recursive effects as well as abilities that enable more actions and minions per turn than usual. Most notably, the wizards can draw through most of their deck in one turn if the cards align well, and robots can easily flood the board with micro machines. The potential for pulling off huge flashy plays is definitely there. But what's a bunch of cool minions and plays without a cool place to play them all? That's where the bases come in. And while they don't ooze nearly as much personality as the normal cards, since huge chunks of their space are going to be blocked by numbers and text, it's still cool to see locales specific to different factions. More importantly though, base abilities add great mix-ups to the gameplay, usually providing unique global effects to spice up the gameplay by making you consider where you want to be sending your minions. Okay, time for the not so good stuff about Smash Up. First of all, this game can get bloated really fast during gameplay. When there is just a bunch of bases all out in the middle and there's like a dozen minions all over the board, I blame the robots for spamming micro machines. There's a lot of power to keep track of and a lot of abilities to keep track of. I suppose that's just the nature of the game and can't really be helped much, but it would have been very useful to get some icons on the card that signify things like, oh, this does something when it dies. This has a passive effect. This has an ability when it comes into play, etc., etc. Maybe I've just been spoiled by games like Hearthstone, which have like very easy to follow icons on cards, but I'm generally a huge fan of just icons, keywords, things to simplify board states and make them super easy to understand at a glance. In fact, Ashton actually printed out these neat little score and power trackers for us to use, which makes Smash Up considerably less of a headache to play. As far as I'm aware, the publishers behind Smash Up do not have any products that are commercially available that would help with just an issue like this, which is basically just providing a playmat. Though they do have playmats at events where they're promoting new expansions at your friendly local board game stores that have mats.
The printouts are in Board Game Geek.
Very useful. It's very annoying to play these games without them. Their expansions do have these numbered tokens that you can use for points or power or whatever you want to just keep track of with, that need numbers. The tokens are kind of messy though, and I'm of the opinion that the best way to play would be on play mats while also having a bunch of 20-sided dice laying around. Basically what I'm trying to say is that they could have easily included just a paper or cardboard game mat that would have made the out-of-box experience so much better without having to turn to external accessories. Next up, this game isn't very well balanced. Most notably, the robots, wizards, and zombies are obviously much stronger than the rest of the factions in the base game package. These are the factions that have, by far, the biggest power plays and can consistently pull off massive boards and long turns. They are all much more effective within the core gameplay loop than the other factions, thanks to their ability to circumvent game restrictions. These factions will usually go way beyond the 1 minion 1 action a turn limit. And on top of that, they also don't usually run out of cards while doing this either, because they all either have ways to draw, or in the zombies case, have recursive effects and play stuff from the graveyard. Discard pile. I don't know. Graveyard's Yu-Gi-Oh term, discard pile is most other games' term. Also, some factions combo together a little too well. If someone is playing robot wizards and know what they're doing, they will probably win the game more likely than not, thanks to the robot's ability to spam minions and the wizard's ability to spam actions. And meanwhile, the guy who's playing Leprechaun aliens is going to feel incredibly slow in comparison because they don't really have any ways to cheat out like a bunch of stuff all at once, so they simply just can't keep up with the board presence. To further add to this shit sandwich, some factions are just more inconsistent than others. Ninjas, in particular, have too many kill cards, and so you end up not really wanting to play a lot of your ninja cards if there's nothing around to kill. Contrast this with the robots, who are very proactive. They're always playing stuff, and they can also draw a bunch on top of that. It is very easy to see the ninjas fall behind. After all, the ninjas can't kill everything the robots play if they only have 1 action and 1 minion per turn. We've also found that having bases equal to the amount of players plus 1 is way too many bases. It's very easy to have everyone just kind of huddle in their own little corners and not ever contest each other if everyone just dumps all their stuff on their own isolated base. No one wants to go for second place when scoring on most of these bases, so the next logical step is to just get first place on a different base. And then once someone's ahead on a different base, someone else is not going to want to play stuff there because it just feels kind of pointless when that other player already has the majority of power there and not going to contest that in time. We ended up house ruling the game so that there's actually bases equal to 1 less than the amount of players, since we found that it encourages contesting bases and leads to more interactive gameplay.
Alrighty, time to score Smash Up. Here at Shelfside, we do things a little differently since we got 2 people running the channel. We're first going to give you the recommender score, which is how we try to evaluate the game as objectively as possible by weighing the aforementioned pros and cons. Then, the 2 of us are going to give you our personal scores, which are our own opinions about the game.
Alright, so for Smash Up, we would give this game a 5 out of 10. The gameplay is pretty meh, but the theme holds the game up pretty well. The factions are well thought out, and they tie their theme to their gameplay very nicely.
But unfortunately, Smash Up is just novelty at the end of the day, and a lot of it comes from just mashing stuff together and seeing what happens. With the base game of 8 factions, that's going to get old pretty fast thanks to the power imbalance.
This is just for the base game though. Smash Up gets a whole lot better when you buy multiple expansions, since a balance is no longer an issue and replayability goes through the roof, since you get so many more possible combinations.
Because of this, we only recommend Smash Up to people who are already interested in this theme and are also willing to shell out more cash for expansions in order to get a more complete experience.
Alright, what do I think about Smash Up? Well, personally, I'd give this game a 7 out of 10. I get a huge kick out of the ridiculous theme of this game. And coming from a background of Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic, and Hearthstone, I'm just a big fan of card games in general. Kind of like with Dixit, I liked the base game enough that I went out and got 2 expansions. The awesome level 9000 expansion and a pretty Smash Up. And then I ended up liking the game even more as a result, because guess what? That's just more combinations, that's just more content. You don't notice the balance problems as much if there's more nonsense happening. And also, like with our previous Dixit review, the base game of Smash Up just kind of feels incomplete, and the instant you throw some expansions in there, the game immediately feels so much better to play. Balance, just bam. You don't even notice as an issue when you just can combine so much more stuff. Plus, buying the expansions gives you trackers and tokens and just all of the like nice little quality of life things you would need for more replayability. And then also the theme continues to get even more zany when you just throw in more nonsense. So yeah, I like it. That's why I got the expansions. So that's where I stand on Smash Up.
Now it's time for my personal score on Smash Up. I'm gonna have to give this game a 4 out of 10. Even with the base house rule, this game is way too inconsistent and frustrating to be classified as a good game. While the faction abilities are well nuanced and thematic, they clash together in such weird ways, and gameplay typically stagnates most of the time, where turns can consist of you doing nothing and waiting for the right combo pieces to come along, until you realize you've already lost. Plus, when bases get overloaded with minions, the game gets extremely confusing to a degree that shouldn't be happening in such a lighthearted game. In 4-player games, it feels like your actions don't really mean anything either, since game states are so volatile with other people's strong minions, removal cards, and power-ups. While it is fun to combine factions and see what cool results you get, at the end of the day, this game is just literally a zany smash up of trading card ideas tossed into a board game. 4 out of 10.
Smash Up is a wacky game that was probably designed theme first and gameplay afterwards. If you are super into the premise of getting different factions from all sorts of places fighting against one another, check this game out and pick up a few expansions. Purchase link down in the description below. For those looking for top-notch card game gameplay though, we'd suggest looking elsewhere. That's going to be it though for our Smash Up Shelfside review. Thank you all for tuning in and watching us, and we'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.